Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, presented by the business Courier. Cincinnati's largest indoor facility may just be our biggest liability when it comes to luring major events and the dollars they bring to the city. Plus, it's a Monday night in Cincinnati and you need something to do. There's an app for that. And a local comfort food startup continues its expansion with a new look. U.S. Bank Business Watch is next. Good morning and welcome to U.S. Bank Business Watch. I'm Peg Rasconi. Representatives from the Republican National Committee tour Cincinnati as a possible site for their 2016 convention. The main convention site would be the Queen City's largest indoor facility, U.S. Bank Arena, and that could hurt Cincinnati's chances to snag that event. On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, this is what we need. A look at how arenas in nearby cities are making Cincinnati suffer. The Business Courier looks into why, without major improvements and more likely a new facility altogether, Cincinnati will continue to miss out on top entertainment and struggle to attract big-time sporting events that bring millions of dollars and national attention to cities. At nearly 40 years old, the facility is ancient compared to other nearby facilities like the KFC Yum Center in Louisville, Nationwide Arena in Columbus, and Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Some say putting money into fixing the arena is like putting a Band-Aid on a serious wound. Business Courier reporter Steve Watkins has been investigating this issue and joins Business Courier editor Rob Dahlmeyer in the studio with more on what he found and the economic implications of the aging arena. Steve and Rob.
Thanks, Peg. Steve, thanks for being here.
Sure, thanks for having me.
It's one of those things where U.S. Bank Arena's been around so long, I drive by it every day, and you just sort of forget to look at it with fresh eyes, but that's what you did this week. What's wrong specifically with U.S. Bank Arena?
Well, there's nothing really inherently wrong with it per se. The problem is, as we said, it's 40 years old, and the biggest problem is what it is not. And what we did is looked in the surrounding areas, Louisville's Yum Center, Columbus's Nationwide Arena, and Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Those facilities are not only bigger. Yum Center seats 22,000. We seat about 17 or 18,000 here. They've got, at the Yum Center, twice as many suites, which generate a lot of revenue for performers. They've got 3 times the number of bathroom facilities, for example. I mean, just a lot of amenities, tons of concessions that we don't have here, lots of space, and lots more opportunities to generate revenue in other premium seating. That old arenas like U.S. Bank Arena, they just don't have the space or the ability to do it, no matter what they do to renovate it.
And each of those 3 are an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Cincinnati, so they're close enough where people, a lot of events and tournaments. Next year's NCAA basketball tournament, all 3 of those cities are in, and we haven't had that in 30 years probably. How do they fix this?
Well, there's a couple things that have been talked about. One is renovating. U.S. Bank Arena's owners, which is privately owned by the Niederlander Entertainment Group, they're already putting $4 million into it this coming year, and they're going to add some premium seats, add more locker rooms in hopes of getting an NCAA tournament. So it can be renovated, but one local developer told us even if you put $100 million into renovation, it's still not going to be the Yum Center or even close to it. And so most people are saying, really, if we want to do this, we need to build a new facility. Yum Center costs $240 million. It's going to take some public money as well, and that's the hang-up.
Well, I mentioned the NCAA tournaments, which are cash cows for the cities that get those.
Sure.
But what other events, what other kinds of things are we missing out on?
Yeah, the Yum Center has this summer's lineup I took a look at, and you've got names like Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus, Lionel Richie, Paul McCartney. And then you look at the lineup at U.S. Bank Arena, and it's basically Bruno Mars is a big name. The rest are people that most people people haven't heard of, or they're UFC fighting. It's kind of night and day in terms of the difference in events.
And so you did talk to also some people that said, like you mentioned before, that there's just a real possibility that there's nothing you can do to that place to have it be apples to apples with, let's say, the Yum Center.
That's right. There are even things like what they called the ceiling load. A lot of these performers will hang things from the ceiling, and older arenas don't have the stability to handle stuff like that. Areas for entrance, staging, and things like that for performers, locker rooms, all that stuff, let alone all the amenities for fans and customers. There just isn't the square footage or the space there at US Bank Arena. They can fix it up a little bit, but they can't match up with these new arenas.
Well, we'll see what happens, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more on this. Thanks for being here.
Sure, thank you.
Peg, back to you.
All right, thanks, Steve and Rob. Courier, the medical device maker based in Westchester, plans to relocate its company headquarters and about 200 workers to Mason. Ground is expected to break this year on a 10.5-acre campus in the Oak Park area near I-71. Courier spent about a year searching for a new site and hopes to move into the new building in late 2015. CEO Mike Carroll says Mason has been a good partner for bioscience growth companies, and the city provided the best mix of logistics and the benefits that will help Courier grow and attract top talent into the future. A bombshell is dropped on Erlanger. Toyota announces it's closing its Erlanger facility to establish a new North American operations headquarters in Plano, Texas. The decision means about 1,600 jobs will move from northern Kentucky as part of the automaker's nationwide consolidation of operations. Within the next 3 years, Toyota's North American headquarters for manufacturing, sales, marketing, and corporate operations will relocate to a single campus in Plano, Texas. Toyota's manufacturing and engineering headquarters opened in 1996 in Erlanger.
I was blindsided. I didn't know about it at all. We have really regular and very good communications with the people at Toyota, and so it came as kind of a shock.
About 1,000 employees will move to Plano. A small group is expected to move this summer, with the majority of these employees moving after the construction of Toyota's new headquarters is completed in late 2016 or early 2017. For more on the impact of this move, be sure to visit the Business Courier online. Well, despite that disappointing news, Cincinnati's jobs market jumped in March to its best reading in nearly 6 years. Greater Cincinnati added nearly 10,000 jobs in March, according to figures released by the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. That's the 39th straight month for local job increases, compared with the same month in the previous year, according to Northern Kentucky University economist Janet Hara.
The one thing we can't tell when we look at the job numbers is what kind of jobs are being created. We don't know if these are part-time jobs or full-time jobs, and we don't know if they're paying $10 an hour or $20 an hour. But given where we've come from, any job growth is good job growth.
Now, as you may expect, the local unemployment rate fell in March to 5.8%. That's its best level since May of 2008. Local construction company HGC is being run by the grandson of its founder, who still carries on some of the lessons of his grandfather that he learned from the Depression. Mike Huseman grew up in the construction business. He left the company his grandfather founded after college, but returned in 2002 and bought HGC with partners. Huseman oversees one of the largest locally based general contractors, with nearly 200 employees and $56 million in local billings last year. HGC is working on everything from Mercer Commons and over the Rhine to converting the old Inquirer building downtown into a hotel.
There's that trust that HGC can get it done. So whether it's renovating something in over the Rhine or the hotel work, it's that broad range of activities we're into. And it's just that when we say we're going to get it done, we get it done.
Across the street from HGC's headquarters in Walnut Hills is a trove of materials from different jobs. Huseman says not throwing anything away is part of the culture of the company that was founded during the Great Depression. A local startup is trying to help users spend less time looking for things to do and more time experiencing Cincinnati.
So for example, it's a Monday and you're looking for the coolest things to do this week. We give you a curated guide of the best events happening, whether it's a great cocktail tasting at a bar like Old Kentucky Bourbon Bar or a seafood pairing at Anchor OTR.
Impulsity ran out of cash last November and its app went dark, but co-founders Hunter Hammonds and Austin Cameron did not give up on their business dream. When they relaunched Impulsity early in April, they put a new focus on creating editorial content. Their first post was highlighted the 10 best cocktails in OTR, and there have been more lists since then. In the past 30 days, Hammond says Impulsity has reached 75% of 18 to 35-year-olds in Cincinnati. Well, Tom & Chi reopens its renovated Newport on the Levee location. The grilled cheese and tomato soup restaurant opened at the Levee in 2011 in a space formerly occupied by a Mexican restaurant. Founders Cory Ward and True Quackenbush only cleaned and painted the space before opening. Well, now the restaurant has gone through a total remodel that will become the model.
Going forward, most Tom & Cheese will look a lot like what we're doing right now. These are a lot of experimental test type stuff. We're getting ready to remodel our Court Street location coming up pretty soon, and we'll probably see the next generation of our store, but a lot of them are going to look a lot like this.
This location will be the fast casual chain's flagship and serve as a design and branding model for Tom & Chi franchise stores opening across the country. Well, up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, Time Warner cable customers get ready for a change. And P&G is going to extreme measures to make sure you wash your hands in a public restroom. Some news you may have missed if you're not reading the Business Courier online every day or following on Twitter and Facebook. If you're a Time Warner customer, you've been sold. Charter Communications will take over more than 1 million Time Warner cable customers as part of Comcast's $45 billion acquisition of Time Warner. Charter will pay about $7.3 billion in cash for the customers when the merger closes. It will include all Time Warner accounts in Greater Cincinnati and most across Ohio and Kentucky. The change is unlikely to affect customers in the short term. The company known for making soap is making sure we use it. Procter & Gamble is testing a soap dispenser that emits an audible alarm to remind people to wash their hands after using a public toilet. The door locks are rigged with pressure sensors that connect to an alarm on the soap dispenser. When doors are opened, the alarm sounds and it stops as soon as the button for the soap is pressed. The alarms are being tested in fast food restaurants, schools, and offices in the Philippines. Well, something's happening in the markets that we have not seen for some time. In recent months, there's been a noticeable increase in merger acquisition activity from a number of companies around the world. Over the past several years, this type of activity has by and large been on hold, but no longer. For perspective on these questions, we turn to our very own Jim Russell, U.S. Bank Wealth Management Senior Equity Strategist, who is with Business Courier editor Rob Dahlmeyer for this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360. Rob and Jim.
Thank you. As much as I'd like to keep talking about washing your hands in the bathroom, let's move on to something else.
An important topic.
Yeah, right. That's pretty important.
Yes, it is.
But how sustainable is this trend? Is this something you think will continue through the year?
Rob, we think the trend is pretty big. Every morning we get up and there's another large deal on the news tape, usually global, but to some extent local as well. Our very own GE is involved in a very large acquisition in France right now, and so we do think the trends are sustainable. Global deals are totaling $1.2 trillion, a Carl Sagan-like statistic. This is really in second place to 2007, where 1.4 trillion were in place by this point. One of the cool things is that we really think that this transition is occurring because of an increase in business confidence, and perhaps line of sight is a little better this year than it was years past. So we think that a couple of different things are going on, led by telecom, healthcare, and technology. I think we've all heard a little bit about some of the acquisitions by some of the healthcare companies. There's one pending right now with Pfizer, and technology, call it Facebook, and a few of the other things.
If I'm in the stock market, is this good news, or how should I react?
Yeah, this is one of the trends that perhaps is the most notable. There's a very meaningful change between the tone of this particular merger and acquisition cycle and what we've seen in the past, and that is the companies making the acquisitions are actually going higher in price regarding the stock market. You can see the chart here would indicate that over the last several months that the acquirers have actually outperformed the S&P 500 by a meaningful amount, 13%. And in past, perhaps the acquirers would actually go down in price. In fact, the statistics point to that on a year-to-date basis, the acquirers have gone up 4.4% on the very first day, which tells us that market participants are pretty excited about the strategic aspects and also the prices paid for these acquisition targets.
You touched on this, but why now? Why is this happening?
Yeah, again, CEO confidence is much higher than it has been for some time. Secondly, the composition of the acquisitions are key, and that is companies are using much less debt than they have in the past. We feel that this is a much healthier development. Cash and stock are being used. Companies, by and large, as a general statement, have large amounts of cash on the balance sheet. To some extent, they're buying growth as well. So CEO confidence, buying growth on a global scale, and again, investors being rewarded with higher prices by the acquisition activity. The markets seem to like this, and we do think it's sustainable through 2014 and 2015, assuming that the markets don't get derailed.
Yeah, this was something we saw a lot of before the recession. It just was a part of our normal life, and then it sort of drifted away. So this almost seems like a sign that maybe we're getting back to.
Yeah, picking up again, and again, we'll see it at all levels, big, small, and medium.
Great. Jim, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Peg?
All right, thanks, Rob and Jim. And still to come on U.S. Bank Business Watch, Cincinnati is participating in an international hackathon this weekend. We'll explain what that means and why it increases our cool factor next. And congratulations to Chris Lyons, Economic Development Director for the city of Sharonville, another of our 40 under 40 honorees. The Flying Pig Marathon isn't the only event underway this weekend that's attracting some very intense people. For the first time, an international hackathon event called Angel Hack is happening in Cincinnati. Participants work for 24 hours straight, often without sleep, to develop a working, market-ready product. Angel Hack ends with a demo of the working products, which will happen today. And local Angel Hack ambassador Alex Bowman worked with the event's organizers in San Francisco to make the event free so more Cincinnatians can participate. In this morning's Business Insight, he joins Business Courier publisher Jamie Smith in the studio with more on the world's largest hackathon series. But first, I do think we have to point out Jamie's blazer.
Thanks, Peg. Yes, I have to sprout my pigs this weekend as well. So I'm going to be busy with the pig, Alex, but you're going to be busy with the hackathon, the Angel Hack. Talk a little bit, what is a hackathon?
So a hackathon is essentially a short event, usually 1 to 2 days, where developers come in and work nonstop throughout the weekend to create something from scratch. They come in, it's a blank paper, and then throughout that weekend, at the end of the weekend, they have to show working code, an actual demo, no PowerPoints, to a series of judges, and they may win.
So it's actually about their product and actually demoing their product, right?
Yeah, so I'm also one of the organizers for Startup Weekend, which has been really popular in Cincinnati for a couple of years now. But the difference is, Startup Weekend, you show a PowerPoint presentation or some sort of slides at the end of what your business could be.
Okay.
At Angel Hack, you actually have to show your product working.
That's awesome. Now, why Cincinnati? How do we get it here?
Well, I was actually in Seattle working at Amazon, and we were working with Angel Hack for a couple of years. And when I came back to Cincinnati, I had to bring Cincinnati up where there was San Francisco, Seattle, New York, London, Bangkok. I mean, there were just a whole slew of cities that were just super big, and they all had Angel Hack, so we should too.
Oh, that's great. Well, I know it's still going on today. I know they've been hacking all night, but people can come over and watch and see the judging. See, what are they going to see if they show up?
Yep, so at 2 p.m. today, they'll be able to come in and see all the finished products. And we've got a whole great set of judges from all different places in the city, like Dave Knox from Rockfish, representatives from the Brandery. We've got Chris Bergman from Chore Monster, all the different startups represented. We've got people from Kroger, Dunnhumby. They'll be judging, and then the winner gets chosen around 5 o'clock today, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, that's great. So Cincinnati, I mean, we've got so much going on for us, so I'm glad people like yourself believe enough in the city to bring this, these kind of things to the city. It's only going to make it even better, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
Any ideas, some of the great ideas, or have you been able to see what's going on?
Not yet, but I'm really excited to see what happens.
Okay. Well, thanks. We're got a little more time. We can talk a little bit more about it.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about your experience with it. You know, you said you've been there in Seattle. Talk about how it's gone. What have they developed?
Yeah, so we've done a lot. I've been to a lot of these, obviously, and what I think is interesting is Cincinnati doesn't really have a one solidified developer community. It has a bunch of different developer communities, different languages, different experiences, I guess. We're bringing all of them together for the first time, really, at this event. So we are going to get developers from all different backgrounds, different companies, different coding language experiences, and they're going to be building something together for the first time, and that's what I think is going to be unique about this event, and I'm excited to see what that does.
Great. Now, it's held over in Covington at UpTech?
Yes, at UpTech.
Is that correct?
Yep, and they've been super supportive of us. We're excited to have it at UpTech. We're going to have a happy hour that's sponsored by Braxton Brewing, which is the new brewery that's opening up in Covington.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of local support from Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, we've had a lot of coverage on UpTech and you know, all the good companies that have been a part of it. So I'm glad to see that they're opening their doors to such great entrepreneurship and you know, generating new ideas. So, well, listen, thank you so much for bringing it back to Cincinnati. Thank you for being here today to give us a sneak peek, and hopefully some of our viewers will come by to check out what's going on.
Cool, thank you.
All right, thanks. Peg, back to you.
All right, thanks, Jamie and Alex. A marathon and a hackathon in the same weekend. Not bad. Well, thank you for joining us this morning for U.S. Bank Business Watch. We'll be back next Sunday and every Sunday morning at 6:30 here on Local 12 and at 10 a.m. on the CW. And for more business news all week long, visit the Business Courier online. You can sign up for daily emails, follow on Facebook and Twitter. The address is cincinnatibusinesscourier.com. I'm Peg Rasconi, and I hope you have a great Sunday.